good? Yeah? All right. How's everybody doing?
We wanted to see that.
Good?
They make so much money.
See some old friends? Oh, I see old friends. Oh, wow. All right. Welcome to the Hyperion booth, where we're going to talk about hydrogen. How many of you guys know about hydrogen today? Maybe a show of hands. Yeah? Or do you guys know that it's an electric vehicle technology? Are you guys aware of that? Yes. It can also be used for combustion, but in this example, it's electric vehicles. Okay, so you guys have seen the XP-1. This has been out for a couple years. It's an exciting vehicle, and to tell the story of hydrogen, why don't we go ahead and start the video, Tony? This will be stuff you've already seen. And then we're going to talk about what the next step is in the industry, and why hydrogen is important, and how we view it in the world. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Voyager? 48%.
Alright, just waiting for the video, guys. How many of you guys have seen this car before? Yeah? Have you guys seen Supercar Blondie's review of it? Yeah? Okay, that was fun. She's great. All right, guys, here's the car. You guys have seen this, as we've mentioned. The reason we built this car, again, was to show what hydrogen can do. It is a very advanced technology, the most advanced when it comes to electric, and why it can handle the most challenging parts of electric with regards to, let's say, commercial vehicles. This car has the capability of going over 1,000 miles. Over 1,000 miles, we'll put that out. And that's not difficult to do in a hydrogen car. That's kind of something a lot of hydrogen cars could do. And that's because the more hydrogen you store, you don't actually have to pay what's called a weight penalty, unlike battery electric vehicles. So you can have a lot of range if you can package it correctly. So in addition to that benefit, you also have the added bonus of a lot of power and torque from those motors, those 4-axial flux motors in each wheel, which gives you over 2,038 horsepower specifically. And that gives you 0 to 60 of 2.2 seconds and a top speed of over 221 miles per hour. So this is all well and good, but the challenge has always been, where do you get hydrogen? That's always been the challenge. And what we're going to show here behind you guys today is our solution to that. So let's talk about that. Let's go on to the next slide. And let's talk about the hydrogen industry. Let's skip to the industry, if you could. Well, the good thing about doing this your whole life is I can talk about it without a presentation. So, okay, guys. So there's about 5 categories of hydrogen. Commercial vehicles is one. Passenger vehicles is another. You could also use hydrogen in industrials. It's actually a huge part of what hydrogen can do in terms of offtake. Very, very difficult things to do for batteries. And the benefit, again, is that when you have hydrogen, you can actually store mass amounts of energy. And so these are the good things about hydrogen, right? Let's talk about the challenge of hydrogen. The hardest thing about hydrogen is the fact that the engine itself uses rare earth metals. It's going to use some platinum. To make hydrogen, if you want to do it clean, it's going to have also some iridium, also very expensive. So how do you bring these costs down? And how do you centralize and simplify? And this is essentially what we've done. We have found ways to reduce the content of that platinum in this engine. I'll walk over here. This engine right here actually has a lot of horsepower and has the ability to boost its power on demand. And what's special about that is you can use basically half the platinum that's required in most fuel cell applications. And that's going to bring the cost down for mass production. The second thing that you want to do whenever you're dealing with something like this is electrolysis. How do you bring costs down in electrolysis? Now, the price per kilogram of hydrogen is pretty expensive. It can be up to, if you go to the pump, basically about $12 per kilogram. We need to bring that cost down. And so what we can do is we can reduce the cost of hydrogen and compress the hydrogen cheaply in a way that can deliver hydrogen for very, very low cost, below $3. And that's the other way that you want to solve the problem with hydrogen. So one problem is going to be the engine cost. The second problem is going to be generating hydrogen costs. And the third problem is going to be station costs, okay? So without further ado, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Let's pause. Let's take the cover off the station. Let's talk about why the station is so special. If my team could do that. You guys maybe want to step aside.
I need a fueling station. I need one.
All right, so here we are, guys. This is our XF model series. It is called Hyperion. And what's special about it, the first thing you might notice, is it's shaped a little differently than you might normally have at a station. And it's because it is mobile. It does travel. There are deployable wheels, and actually let's go to the screens and we'll talk about that a little bit here. So these are the challenges I talked about. Engines, compressors, right, and infrastructure. And this is the supply chain. Normally you've got to get your power from solar, then you've got to generate your hydrogen, then you've got to compress it, which is the hardest thing, and that all costs money. But what if you could do that all in one system? Let me explain what that does. If you had a system right behind you that can actually generate hydrogen on site, and beyond that, it has the capability to also generate power. Now you have the ability to have a station that can very quickly be mass produced and create hydrogen for a mass amount of energy for fuel cell vehicles. Beyond that, why it's so special, because hydrogen can store so much energy, you can also use the same technology to recharge battery vehicles. So what we have is a dual fuel or polyfuel system. It can actually charge both hydrogen and battery electric vehicles. And that's special for a couple of reasons. Normally when you're getting hydrogen, you don't know where it's coming from. A lot of hydrogen today comes from gray means. It's going to come from natural gas that's been reformed. But what if you make sure that hydrogen was clean and green? You can do that on site in a station just like this, and now you control your infrastructure, which means you can reduce costs. So there are 3 versions of the station, and our team members are going to open up so you can take a look at it. We'll talk about the different pieces of that behind me. But these versions will actually be one standard compressed store and dispense, one model that can actually do dual fuel, and you'll see a video coming up here shortly, and then a third model that actually generates hydrogen on site. And so it's always going to be for hydrogen a fast refuel, just 5 minutes. And in this case, you could actually go on either side if you have just the version 1 of this, which is the VF1 model, and you're on the go very quickly. Now these are 2 hydrogen cars, but we're going to show you another video after this where it's a battery electric car as well. And what's cool about that is you can actually have a very high power fuel cell connected to this thing that can give you very high voltage, and this is how it works. So, you've got your graphic interface here, but most importantly, you've got solar at the top, right? Now that's not going to generate a ton of power, but it's enough to keep the system running. It also creates ventilation. You have a nozzle that's self-cleaning, which is very important, interactive user display, and on the inside, you're going to have power, very high voltage power for your battery systems. You're going to be able to compress it on site, although it's coming out high pressure, and you can convert it to other means of power through that fuel cell. And then if it's a hydrogen vehicle, it needs to be chilled before it's dispensed, and deployable wheels. And this is where all your coolants and liquid fuels are stored as well. And lastly, this is the complete package with all your hydrogen stored above here. And so this is unique in that it's an all-in-one system. In short, the hydrogen industry is very, very complex. It is a 5-piece value chain. How do you make that simple, and how do you bring the cost down? Well, it's through mass production. And this video is going to show you a little bit about how we can do that for both types of vehicles. So instead of waiting for there to be enough hydrogen cars to build stations like this, you can actually use these to recharge battery cars as well. And you'll see that right here. So any type of battery vehicle can come as a CCS charger, and also going to be a Tesla charger, fast charger on board as well. So you'll be able to go for an 18-minute, 80% fuel on the battery side, a lot of fun, or you can do a 5-minute refuel on the hydrogen side. And again, the beauty of this thing is that because it's mobile, you can make them relatively cheaply, and you can dispense them anywhere you'd like, and you can move them around to open new markets, which is very critical in this industry. And so, the goal of everyone in the hydrogen business is to build as many stations as possible. Every 100, 200 miles, you want a station. And you can't do that cheaply because the technology is too expensive. But you can bring that cost down And if you eliminate the need for decentralized infrastructure, now you have the ability to make a very, very fast refueling infrastructure that everybody can enjoy. And that is essentially what we're looking at. And you can see they've already opened it up. You can take a peek inside on the different tanks and also the solar, and I think you can see a little bit of the interface. And with that, I would like to ask, let's do a couple questions. So, Q&A portion, please raise your hand and we'll do a couple questions. Yes, go ahead.
Security based accident damage.
It's actually less dangerous than we currently use today for gasoline. Hydrogen is non-caustic. This is about the danger of hydrogen. Hydrogen is actually very safe. Those tanks are 1.5 inches thick of carbon fiber. That is the thickest you'll ever find. It can actually withstand bullets and also be dropped from very high skyscrapers. It can do a lot of storage without any damage. So it's actually quite safe. The challenge is people don't understand hydrogen, and so they do think that. But the more they see these stations, and the more they see these cars, the less that'll be a problem. I have a hydrogen car, I've been driving it for years. I've never had a problem, and many drivers agree. The more you see on the road, the more you feel okay about it. Next question. I'm going to run this up. Yes. So there are several versions of this. The mass-produced version will be 50 cars, to answer your question. Correct. Go ahead. Ask me after the show. It's actually cheaper than the competition, and about the same price as the car, so pretty cheap. Go ahead. So for the solar, it's just enough to power the actual station, but not to generate hydrogen. If you want this to generate hydrogen on site, the way you want to do it is you want to make sure there's a building nearby that has the capability to have about 1 megawatt. That's good. Yes.
So you say this is mobile, right?
It is mobile.
So how is it pilot from location to location? How are you able to secure it so no bad actors can take control of the vehicle?
So it basically can be basically trailered from one location to the next. And you do put up safety measure protocol piloting stuff so people don't drive into it. And it is monitored at all times. And it is actually placed at specific locations that are meant to have these stations. Yes?
So what is the power source for this?
It depends on which version you're getting. So there are 3 versions, right? One version is just gonna have hydrogen refueled to it. That's the cheapest form of it. It's called a CSD, if you're familiar with hydrogen, CSD station. The next version is actually one that can actually generate its own power. And that's the one where you really wanna have at least 1 megawatt of solar connected to it. We prefer about 2, actually. And then the third is one that can do all 3. The third thing being charging a battery electric vehicle as well.